exciting today to listen to this panel. It's exciting for me, and it's especially with what's happened these last few days. So this is a real privilege for me. My name's Steve Mackie. I'm a partner of Soutien Group, and it's a real privilege to be able to sit up here with these guys because they are making huge differences within the region, and it's very exciting to do this topic. I just wanted to start off by giving you a little bit of an insight, which I found it quite fascinating. We're about unicorns, and it's all about kind of a startup ecosystem today. And one of the things that I looked up was 1,000 minutes is equivalent to 694 days. And on the other hand, 1 billion minutes is equal to roughly 1,903 years. So I just wanted to give you a lot of people, we just tend to say millions and billions, and we just don't know the perspective of it. But I just wanted to share that with you, the enormity that what these guys are trying to do and try to create is just phenomenal. So that's really exciting. I'd like to just, Hamad, please, if you could introduce yourself to everybody and because I wouldn't do you justice. You're doing fantastic.
Thank you very much, Steve, and good morning to everyone. My name is Hamad Al-Hajri, founder and CEO of Snoonu, and basically it's a super app. We just closed Series B as the first in Qatar. Our aim is to be the biggest Middle East player when it's come to deliver everything human want while he's sitting home. Of course, it's my pleasure to be in Qatar Economic Forum with also another inspirational stories, my friend Ahmed AlZaini and Omar Almajdouie, who's also leading this region from the other side in Saudi Arabia and make this impact and change in the entrepreneurship and startups in this region.
Thank you so much. Thank you. If I can come to you, Ahmed, and I particularly like your business. Could you explain to everybody, introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. It's really an honor and pleasure being here in such a great, impactful event. My name is Ahmed AlZaini. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Foodics. Foodics is a restaurant management system and the end-to-end platform and payment partner founded in 2014. We are proudly serving more than 25,000 locations and restaurants in the GCC and North Africa. Of course, we are partner with Snoonu in Qatar and partner there, and Omar Almajdouie is the first believer in the business in 2016. Yeah. And it's really a great vibes that I will about to feel in this discussion, because I'm surrounding with people that they're really contributing great and positively in the ecosystem and excited about the future.
Yeah, and I do want to just fill in there. It's like the expectation. You've been kind of you're showing the way from an entrepreneurial perspective in Saudi Arabia for quite some years. The pressure must have been immense for you, or was it just a walk in the park?
Definitely. Everybody who they been in the GCC in 2014 definitely can see the impact and compare how was the situation in 2014 and compare it with the current situation. For example, the impact and the digital adaptation has been increased 2,700% from that time until last year. So imagine how impacted is the digital adaptation to the sector that we are in the F&B, and seeing that the sector is really highly sensitive, and the risk of business closure in that sector is really not easy, especially the sector contain of a single double store restaurant owners. Those restaurant owners are not technology or tech savvies that they're really knowing how to utilize, or we just chat this morning, Steve, that when you have your restaurant back then, maybe 8 years ago, you felt like, are you profitable? Are you doing well in business while you are in the kitchen serving your restaurant? Technologies such as Foodics and Snoonu really will help a lot in minimizing the risk of business closing and also increasing the success the success ratio.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much for that. And I really, when we talked earlier, your application is empowering so many people, because as chefs, I was a chef for 20 years. Many of those years, you tended to be a busy fool. You've empowered these guys to not look at their balance sheets at the end of the year and say, oh, well, I've actually made something this year. So it's really empowering. So thank you so much. Omar, we met last night. We were lucky enough to have a wonderful meal. But I find it staggering how many people that you're helping, how many people that you're helping in the ecosystem in Saudi Arabia, but not just Saudi Arabia. You're all over the region, in the MENA region. So please, I'll give a bit of an introduction. Please tell us all about what you do.
Thank you so much, Steve. First, let me say that I'm delighted. So it's third day. It's 8:30 in the morning and it's breakout. So thank you so much. I expected that we will see like 5 or 6 people only. But now, mashallah, the hall is full. So thanks for all who took this initiative and attended this session. I hope that, inshallah, you will get benefit out of this session at the end. My name is Omar Almajdouie. I'm founding partner at Raed Ventures. Raed Ventures is actually established in 2015 in Riyadh, in Dammam, Saudi Arabia. It's actually the first privately owned VC. So we used to have like 3 or 4 governmental or semi-governmental VCs like Wide, like STC Ventures, Mobile Ventures. But the first privately owned VC is Raed Ventures. And Raed means pioneer. So we are also, hopefully, that we are pioneers. We are investing in early stage startups, tech startups in Middle East, North Africa, and we, since 2015, we invested in about 44 companies. Of course, Foodics is probably one of the early investments in the Raed journey. Our focus is naturally in Saudi, because we are based there, but actually our investments are almost everywhere in the region. So we have in Egypt, we have in UAE, we have one in Bahrain, one in Jordan, and we have also in US, but mainly our focus is in Saudi Arabia. And we are excited. We are excited about every year we are seeing advancements and increase in the quality and quantity of the startups that we are seeing in the pipeline.
Congratulations on everything you've achieved. It's phenomenal. I've got a question. The first question I've got is going to be to all of you. And what are the changes that you've seen in the region in the last 10 years? And what is it like being part of it now? And I'm going to come back to you straight away, if I can, Omar, and ask you to answer first.
Again.
So in the last 10 years, you've been part of this ecosystem.
Yeah.
I'll read it again. First question: what are the changes in the region concerning the startup ecosystem in the last 10 years, and what is it like being part of it now?
So I will give you an example of change from a real example of this guy. So when I met Ahmed in 2015, he had 5 startups at the same time, and that is the mindset of Saudis back in the days. So they were risk averse. They were, okay, if this failed, I need to have another thing that should succeed somehow. And that was actually the recipe of failure. So because you can't really actually scale 5 startups at the same time as an operator, not as an investor. And the change happened to Ahmed showed exactly what we are expecting in this domain. That focus, talented people who are working on something that is impactful and big, and they can focus, they can have full of their professional time scaling a startup, definitely they will succeed. So the example here is that, yes, the mindset of entrepreneurs, particularly in Saudi Arabia, but generally in the whole region, it has changed drastically. And the tendency toward risk averse is now much lower, but toward achievement and toward impact and toward changing the status quo is actually what's now happening. We see now in Saudi Arabia ministers who resign and go and do their startups. See CEOs now. We are investors in a company founded by the former CEO of STC. So imagine the level of calibers that are now funding, making or establishing their startups, risky startups, but still they are doing it. And that is due to many, many factors. We can talk about it, and I will leave some space for my colleagues to talk about some other factors.
So if I come to you now, Ahmed, and ask you the same, because we're now going to be talking about Qatar. So what are those differences? What are those things from your perspective?
Yeah, definitely, Steve, there is big shifting in behavior. I would say overall, not only Qatar, but GCC, we never heard about entrepreneur before 10 years ago. The entrepreneur been in the world like 1,000 years, by the way. So I keep saying entrepreneur is the person who get the human out of the cave, or we're gonna stay in the cave. Entrepreneur is the person who change people's life, who build new businesses. So before 10 years ago, most of the people are like real estate developer or businessman or trader, but not entrepreneur. Entrepreneur about building new things. We miss the manufacture era. We don't have, no one built a car brands in GCC. We even from small things, from constructions, equipments, we did not build anything. We done nothing. What we have is oil, in Qatar case, oil and gas. We just use this money on government budget. Most of the people working for the governments, and this was the behavior. But to build something new, that was not a part of GCC before, which something I would say start 2015-16. But why? I would say also we were lacking two main factors. The entrepreneur was not exist in this region, and the investor is not long-term investor. So the investor, when they put their money, they want something guaranteed, and the return should be like from year 2 or 3, which make it impossible because entrepreneurship is a risky way. Not everything can be success. Sometimes you're gonna fail. With something like we appreciate, we have investors like Almajdouie in this region, and now we have more who are brave enough and believe this region deserves more. I can give you another example. This is something make my explanation better to some investors, especially in tech area. I keep saying to them, most of the people who make big wealth, they invest, I would say, in empty land. Back in 1990s, what they done is just wait. They wait the value of this land or gold or whatever, any assets. It's basically, they call it time value investor. Let me wait until the value of that asset will increase after 10 years. But I'm gonna make multiple by 10 or 11. Exactly the same case in technology. In technology, you have to invest, you have to believe, you have to see the growth. In the land case, the growth was the real estate sector. In our case, the business model is revolutions and keep developing the customer base, the data, the brand. The brand need time, yeah? If you ask, even we don't even have a famous brand like Coca-Cola in our region. But why? Because brand investment need a time. So I would say this is changing right now. We now having a quality entrepreneur. If I rank, I would say, Dubai, Saudi Arabia come first, both of them. Now Qatar is catching up. Kuwait been always, there is many entrepreneurs from Kuwait, but I would say they are not really heavy in tech. Most of them are like in different businesses. But I see now, but from government side also, there is another change. Why government need these entrepreneurs? Because we are investing in education and basically many graduates. I'm talking about Qatar, 5,000 graduates every year. Who's going to employ them? Who's going to give them jobs? Is it government? Ministry of Finance is there 1980s. There is no another Ministry of Finance. After all, Government is like a full cup. It's full. Where are you going to take these people? You need a job creators machines. Who is this, guys? Entrepreneurs.
Yeah. I think one of the words that you said there was believing. And it's kind of taking people on that journey to believe and to build them and to give them the confidence to help them grow. And I think it's very important. And that's something that I've seen in Qatar especially, is that how all the incubators, accelerators, all those the private sector also helping. It's a phenomenal journey, and it's happening so quickly, right? And Saudi Arabia is exactly the same.
Allow me, Steve, to say something about what Hamad mentioned. So Hamad compared land to a startup, which is, when it comes to the financial returns, it might be the same, but when it comes to the impact, it's totally different. So buying a land lot, and keep your money there will actually create negative impact to your society. While putting your money in a startup that is impactful, there are just handful number of startups that are not impactful. Most of the startups are impactful to the society, to the economy, to many other areas. It's totally different. Totally different. We can talk about it later, but that's a very lovely example, comparing things together. But actually, from the other perspective, it's totally different.
I do want to kind of expand a little bit on that right now because it's fresh. Okay, what has been the biggest change? Because it's phenomenal. What seems to be happening in Saudi Arabia is phenomenal. When did that mindset change, where they weren't investing in the land anymore? People like yourself is looking at that opportunity, the impact. When did that start changing?
So Vision 2030 is actually pivotal to the whole Saudi Arabia. You know that we started before Vision 2030. We were very naive. We thought that maybe there is something that we will find, and we couldn't really find but maybe a handful of companies back in the days. But now we are meeting thousands of companies every year. The point is that the change in mindset was driven by Vision 2030. It's actually a top-down. It's not a bottom-up thing happened in Saudi Arabia. If we wait until things will change organically, we will never change in the time frame that you are talking about here. So Vision 2030 came with very, very aggressive directions and goals, and one of them definitely was that digitization, and one of the biggest also, or the most important anchors of Vision 2030 was entrepreneurship and technologies. So that is something that was very, very enriching for us and very refreshing. So this is the change happened. Now, this comes with, these movements comes with, for example, the fees, the land lots fees, that will discourage people to just keep trading lands instead of just develop lands and create jobs. And that is where what things are changing, not slowly, actually fast, but sure in Saudi Arabia. So the money is now shifting from the real estate assets to development and real estate, and maybe also some other assets like equities, like private equities, venture capital, bonds, many of other assets that we are seeing now. It's maturing in Saudi Arabia, while it took very, very long time to reach this point.
Thank you. So Ahmed, I'm going to change yours slightly. It's like I was talking about how you're empowering. What is it like with what you're creating and what you are creating, a massive business? What is it like with the people that you're building that business to empower? What are the types of comments and feedback are you getting from all these guys that are implementing your software?
You mean the talents?
Yeah, the talent. Yeah, the kind of changes that you're helping in these restaurants.
Okay,
with
the impact.
Yeah, the impact.
Definitely. So digital enablement is something really matter, and this is what's changing the success of so many business metrics, which is in any sectors. In real estate development, you will find digital impact, digital transformation or digital adaptation will impact positively in that sector. In my sector, the F&B sector as well, digital adaptation will definitely increase. We are seeing the government transformation as well. I see this it's a collateral between all of the three main pillars to accelerate the success of the, let's say, the journey, which is the government, the investors, and the entrepreneurs. All three together will make the recipe of the digital adaptation and digital transformation and the impact on the economy, let's say. We'll start with the government. So when we founded the company back in 2014, the digital, the government wasn't digitalizes most of the services as what we are seeing today. And I'm talking not in Saudi Arabia, most of the GCC. And having digitalizing the infrastructure and digitalizing the government enables entrepreneurs to innovate and start building businesses. And this is a prerequisite for the entrepreneur as well. We'll have investors that they believe in something you cannot see. So land, you can see the land, you can protect the land value increased. Investors, they can believe on the entrepreneur and also the opportunity that it's clear on their bets, let's say, aggressive bets. And we have the entrepreneurs that they are really adding huge value to the ecosystem. And here where we see the impact of technology companies, technology startups in the let's say the society or the ecosystem. I will speak about my industry. So for example, the ratio of business closure in the sector went up to 60% in COVID. Some of the sectors in COVID reached to an 80%. Most of those business closures in that year, 2020, mainly they wasn't adapting technology. That's why the percentage of business closure and failure increases. While we observe post-COVID, most of the businesses that they adopting the technology fast, Foodics technologies, the ecosystem, and all of the delivery businesses, the online businesses, the digital payment enablements, and all of the cycle, then the percentage of business closures decreases. Nowadays, last year, 2022, we measured that the business closure ratios went down up to 33%. And given said that, today, having the infrastructure ready and people are, the market are welcoming the entrepreneur. I remember in 2014, when I started selling to the restaurant owners, Foodics, they are really laughing about me. I had to lie to ask. I look like I'm a really a big corporate company in order to convince having my technology. Nowadays, when you enter the room and you say that I'm an entrepreneur, they will really show you big respect. And this is how we see that the impact today, it's really rolling the ball bigger and bigger.
Thank you so much for this. I'm going to come to you now, Hamad. How has your background in business innovation and technical innovation helped in building, growing a successful super app?
Yeah, that's good questions. I just want to build what Omar said about, the economic impact that we are creating. Qatar were a little bit, let's say, one step behind Saudi Arabia. Now, to sell the story of startups is different than Saudi Arabia, yeah? This is the truth. In Saudi Arabia, job creation, impact, all these things. Here, it's about how this money will come back. This is the situation here now. We are the first company to close Series A, B, but I would say we could do more. I believe we can do more. Yeah, super app it was. But why? Why investor avoiding, especially Qatar? Most of Qatar financial investment is outside of Qatar, but there is definitely a reason. We believe our market is small, and that's how we see our curse. And again, as someone who's like have a business innovation background, this is my specialty. I have to come with solutions. The only solution I found, small country like Qatar, and you know it's not Qatar. There's multiple countries will have the same challenge. How to build a unicorn startups by going super app approach, by providing a multiple solutions for customers. So what we done, we are the first player in the Middle East that provide Q-commerce and pharmacy. The second player who provide courier services. We are actually the first player to provide Q-commerce and grocery. And so on and so on. So actually, if you go to the basics of business innovation, there is a small law. Generate your new revenue from your existing customer, which means you're going to focus on growth. You're going to focus on, okay, and here I have Ewan, our CFO. Every time I take the product team, hey, we're going to open a new business model inside Snoonu. And by the way, July, we're going to open our marketplace, which a competitor of Noon.com and Amazon. Why? Because we know we have the customer base. We just need to make sure this customer will we give him another reason to come to us instead of 3 times per week, 5 times per week. And he's 5 times per week. We want to make sure he come like every day. And if you're using us every day, how can we make him 3 times? And there is another companies who actually was successful. WeChat is one of them. WeChat is count how many hours you are using WeChat, plus their services. Google as example, they have a clear vision. We are going into any business that human use 2 times per day. So our vision is to be a part of a human behavior, especially in e-commerce, every time, every day. And connect to our vision, speed. You know, we are delivering what human want. But definitely the journey, we are actually one of the fastest. Okay, the first market was, the first challenge was the market size. We sorted. We closed $500 million Qatar riyals 2022. So now, if I sit with any entity say, oh, it's market small, $500 million. How about that answer? So we break the first curse of Qatar. Market is not small. We can make it big. And the second part is, that's actually our investor mentalities, yeah? We want it to be profitable. We managed to be profitable. We are one of the fastest startups to turn us profitable. So, yes, my business background, and of course, attracts 60 nationalities around the world. 55% of them is ex-unicorns. I have Ewan from Scotland, CFO, so Scottish CFO is very good. It's always very good. I have Hamza, one of the funding team of Karim. I have Yuki from Japan. This is a Snoonu team, by the way. They are in front of me, yeah? So 60 nationality. We attract the top talents. We are the highest hires from Qatar Foundation University 3 years in a row. That is impact we're creating, and this is how we to explain to the entities. This is how much value are doing to this country. So yeah, my business background helped to build a super app, to change some laws in our business. One business unit. So there is 2 schools, by the way. Super apps in the East and super services in the West. West believe just one model, go everywhere in the world. If you go to the financial, they're negative. If you go super apps, WeChat, Yandex, all this big player grab, they are profitable. So which school is the best? So I prefer the East.
Good on you. I'll come to you now, Omar.
But just to add to also Hamad, so being a small country doesn't really make it restrictive to be not only $1 billion company but also a $10 billion company, and that is only by exporting your services elsewhere. So I think what Qatar is doing, what Saudi Arabia is doing, and the whole GCC is to create a launchpad for entrepreneurs to create their companies from here and export everywhere. Also, sell within the country but also sell everywhere. So that is not really restrictive. Qatar has the infrastructure, Qatar has the legislation now. The new legislations are very, very progressive to enable any entrepreneur in the world to come to Qatar and establish his or her startup and create software startup that can be sold in US from day two. So that is something that is very doable. I think actually in some scenarios, being small country can make you much faster when it comes to adaptation of new legislations. And that's where I think it's actually sometimes it's a blessing if the mindset is toward attracting, first, enabling Qataris to think about selling abroad, not only selling within, and number two, attracting great talents from abroad to establish their companies in Doha and export anywhere in the world. That's actually something I see it very attainable, especially in the coming years. And I'm sure that I think that GCC has the right place to capture this opportunity.
You said Qatar's, everybody says Qatar, but that's a bonus. For me, that's a bonus. It's so small. You can be a big fish in a small pond, right? You can really kind of take advantage of those areas, be disruptive. You can kind of, it's one of those marketplaces, then you can leapfrog into the other regions. So there are so many different advantages for being so small. I'm going to go on to the, so what strategies and initiatives have you observed that have led to the growth and success of startups in the major region, particularly in becoming unicorns?
Let me just digest the question
Shall I
properly.
take-
So you mean that strategies? So we don't really interfere in the operations of the companies, but we are actually having like thesis before we invest, how big this company can be. So when we came to, for example, Foodics, or when we came to Uniphonic or to Sella or whoever in our portfolio now who is now very big, we had thesis, but the thesis doesn't mean that it's true. And let me give you an example. So we invested in 2017 in a company called Sella. Do you know Shopify? Anyone knows Shopify here? Yeah. So it's exactly Shopify of Saudi Arabia. And our thesis before we invest was this company can have like 20,000, 30,000 merchants from Saudi Arabia, and then they should really expand elsewhere. And until now, Sella is in Saudi Arabia, but surprisingly, they have about 80,000 merchants, 80,000 merchants, active merchants, generating around $200 million a month of revenues. That creates also very, very good revenue from to Sella and profit actually, and scaling the single-digit month-on-month without marketing in Saudi Arabia only. So imagine how big this opportunity was. We couldn't see it. And if we follow our thesis with the current standards, we will never invest in Sella. So that is something that we see. There are things that we can describe about companies' approach to the market, and we actually love companies who are product first. So what does it mean? It means that the normal problem solving of a market is to go and hire people to really solve this issue with the customers. Call center, like 50 call center persons serving 1,000 clients or 2,000 clients, and that is the normal way of solving problems. While the product first problem solving startups that we love to invest in is to try to find what is the root cause of this 1,000 clients who are calling the call center, and try to build something in the product that can resolve it automatically to make sure that the customer will not need actually the call center. And that is what we love, for example, in Foodics, what we love in Sella, what we love in most of our portfolio companies, that we actually came because of our product first. Some of them succeed and some of them fail, for example, for sure. But in general, this approach is the mindset, is the right approach for any startup. I see it very, very clearly in Snoonu. I'm not an investor, unfortunately, but Snoonu also, when Hamad mentioned that the super app means bring people more to the app, is actually a product first. The normal person thinks that, okay, I want more people to come. Let me open a shop to show them what's happening in Snoonu in action. But that's not really a solution. Let's do something that makes people come without really having this physical hurdle. Yeah. And that is what I think is making more sense, in my opinion, in terms of approach to market And when it comes to the thesis, in terms of building the right thesis, try to make it as much as possible right. And so that you can invest in clarity in any early stage startup. This is only for early stage startups. For early stage startups, the model is different.
I wanted to ask this question. You've got the relationship with Ahmed, and there seems to be a nice bond between you. What are those things that in the very beginning, when you see a startup, when they're looking for investment, what are those first indicators that you say, yes, I want to work with you?
So because we are coming early, we need to check 4 things to invest. We need to make sure that we are convinced by the founders. And actually, this is like an interesting thing. This is emotional, that we would love really to see this founder successful. Because if you don't really want to see him successful or her, then you may not really be. It's better for you not to invest. So we like really to see founders that we click together, we synergize, and coachable people, but very competent people, and very talented and leaders and visionaries. Many things that we can talk about founders here, but this is number 1. Number 2 is model. So we don't really invest in models that are questionable when it comes to the path to profitability. Many models that we'll scale, but we don't know how to really create money. We tend not to invest in most of these scenarios. Number 3 is market size. So if the company is serving small market size, then we tend to pass. But there are some ways to look at the market from a different perspective. Is that no, this is small, but if we upsell this if we cross-sell that, we will be much bigger. Then we might reconsider. Number 4 is technology. How is the technology team in the company? And how the technology can be built to make it defensible for the company's sake.
Fantastic. And now I'm going to put you under pressure. What was it like when you first went out there trying to look for investment and you would come across somebody like Omar?
If I recall, in 2014, actually I'm started in getting in the business in 2010, while I still was in the university. Studying, but at that time, no one knows what's entrepreneurship. No one knows what's VC or venture capital back then. So honestly, I wasn't planned to look for investors. Even when I met Omar, I didn't met him to invest. I met him to sell him. But it ended up the story that he invested in the company. So, and then I took 1 year to think about it. And then I came back to Omar, and then we had the deal. So I think in my first investment, maybe it was really hard in taking decisions. Nowadays, when the ecosystem is really mature, everybody can, it's easy for them to raise funds and as money and to innovate. So I think today we are able to differentiate between smart money and dumb money. Smart money like Almajdouie, that he really took a very small stake in the company at that time, but he worked with me as if he owned the majority of the company. And this is where we are lucky nowadays, and I can say that there is no excuse for any entrepreneur nowadays not to succeed. I have so many excuses back then to fail. Hamad as well. But today, I don't find any excuse valid to fail nowadays. You have all of the opportunity, big market, great-minded. The government invested heavy. Qatar, we had chat when we were in Riyadh, had a huge talent hub. The Gulf are lucky to have a great talent hub. In Egypt, we can find a great talent hub, and investors. We are starting seeing smart money investors that they are being invested for decades in the Bay Area, in California, and in the US started putting some checks here. Foodics, one of the companies that got Sequoia, for example, as the first check-ins they wrote for a Saudi company. So this is a good indication that there is all opportunity and all resources to start owners. We can find graduates from Kareem, a new millionaires that will reinvest in the same cycle, and we will start seeing founders, investors, and this is how the rolling ball will be really taking off.
And very quickly on this one is, what would be your best advice to one of these startups that believe they're going to be big? What do they, one point that they need to focus on?
They want to focus, I really second Omar, which is focus on the product. You need to believe on the product that you are building, and you never just being distracted. Then I can name you the number of distraction and recommendation has been told from me, from an investor, from an advisor. Hey, Ahmed, the F&B market is very small. Go to the retail, or just change your product, pivot to another scale. So, but I was with the team, of course, and the team was really focused and believe that there is a huge gaps in the market that we are in. And so many areas of improvement that we can really serve. So my simply the advice here is believe in your idea and focus in building the product and make your startup product first.
Perfect, thank you. Hamad, you said to me that I didn't have enough questions. You said that you thought I needed more, okay?
Okay. I saw 10.
Yeah.
I said I think we have time for 5 only.
We've got 2 minutes left. We've got 2 minutes left.
Okay.
So this is going to be left with you. Is it Snoonu has done fantastic things in Qatar. Okay, you want to be, and we've identified that it's a small marketplace. So you want to be a unicorn. What's your next steps to achieve that?
First, let me explain why we think why the whole panel name is GCC, the home of the unicorns. Number one, GCC is the home of the world's biggest fund. PIF, QIA, Mubadala, you name it. All the monies, or most of the monies, is here. GDP of GCC total is $2 trillion. A country that hunger to not to grow their economy only, but to the diversifications. They have to change from traditional business to new businesses, technology, innovation, knowledge base, you name it. And the other thing is purchasing power. Purchasing power is important. Number of people in GCC is 50 million, but actually from purchasing power, they can be equivalent to 500 million to another countries. Just, it's very high purchase power market. So the foundations of building unicorn, it's there. Plus talents. Most of the people, not only locals, but also expats who are coming here, they're top talents around the world. So every factor is available to build a unicorn in GCC. But how to do it, how to be the unicorn, of course. Number one, in our next round, we are having venture capital who actually going to be a team player with us. Like what Ahmed and Almajdouie, they are teamwork, basically. What do you call it? Because venture capital play a huge role. The growth VC, their job is to take you to the late stage venture capital. The late stage venture capital, their job is to do the pre-IPO activities. So definitely, our goal is to expand to new markets. Our second goal is to IPO in very wealthy stock market without mentioning the name, but it will be in GCC. So this is our main 2 goals. And yeah, I believe that GCC will be the new home of unicorns.
I will finish on this. I think that I've heard over the last 2 days this statement. All roads are heading to the Middle East. And let me tell you, it deserves to be with gentlemen like you in it. Because you are making differences on a huge scale. And what they're doing in these regions, everybody needs to come in knock on the door and find out what exactly you're doing, because it's a phenomenal region, and it's congratulations to you guys. So thank you so much for being on the panel today.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really nice to meet you.